In this video, we'll continue our series on the animation designer, and we're going to look at a more elaborate animation. Well, it's really only elaborate because it has more moving pieces or more elements that are animated. So what we have here is a graphic that these icons are animating into position using the animations from Animation Designer. And I'll deconstruct what I've done so far. I didn't want to make you wait and watch me build all of this. We're going to finish it off with the icon right here. But before we do, I'll go ahead and talk you through how I set this up so far. Now, incidentally, this graphic is one of the included assets, and the background is as well. At the end of this video, I'll go into how I put these together, the pieces, because these are provided as a single SVG in the graphics, and I just broke them apart into separate pieces in order to animate them. And I'll show you how I did that at the end of this video. So, moving on, these two elements right here are both layered images, and so I just imported them in and set them to 10 seconds. So it was very, very quick and easy to do that. This whole thing only took me a few minutes to put together so far. Then we have this first icon that animates in, and you can see that I just mostly kept it. I changed the path, and I set it to elastic, and I made the elasticity the lowest possible strength, and I set this to end. And that's really all I had to do. So that took me about a minute or less. You see that the rotation is 0. It's just I used the default, rotation or whatever you want to call it of that path. So then I moved on to the next one here, and you can see that I've got that. It's this icon, and really all I did, since I had all these settings already, all I really had to do was position it and set the rotation to 90 degrees from the original. So notice that what I really need to do in order to position is I need to come to the end of, when it finishes animating in. So you can see the bounding box is always going to be there because that's the easy. You want to position it where it ends, and so that's where you want to go to move it around. So I just kind of positioned this, and whenever I do, it's a good practice to go ahead and apply settings again. So then, for the next piece, again, I imported that in. Of course, creating a new empty block, and about the only thing I had to do was once again position it, and then I did a rotation of 180 degrees from that original positioning or rotation of that line. So we're going to continue or finish the process of just doing one more. So you can see I've gone about 1/3 of a second in for each one. So I'm going to add an empty block right here. And again, we'll go to Animation Designer, and we're just going to simply import that last icon. And it's going to be this video tablet. So we'll go ahead and open that up. And you can see that it starts off at the beginning. So let's go to the end of that animation, and it's right here. So I want to position it where it's going to end. So I'll have it something around right there, maybe a little bit closer to that line, and maybe a little bit up. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to change this to 270 degrees rotation. So it's coming in from the lower left. This is coming from the upper left, upper right, lower right, and then lower left. And that's really it. All the animations are already built in because it's taking the previous settings. So it's super simple and easy. So I'll just rewind and we'll play that animation. And there you go. Pretty simple and easy with the Animation Designer. Oh, and so again, I mentioned that I'd talk about how I put that together. So again, we have the SVG files here, and so I just opened this up. I used Adobe Illustrator. You can use any vector program that you happen to have. I think there's Inks, I can't remember, Inkscape or whatever it was. There's a couple free ones out there. You can Google search for them. But all I did was in the Illustrator, I copied and pasted each element separately, the ones that I wanted to be together. For example, the Hollywood symbol, copied it and then pasted it into Photoshop, and removed the background, exported it as a PNG. And then I just did that for all 5 pieces, and that's how I got all the pieces for this animation. Now, the one thing I did do also was I made sure and imported this into a 1920 by 1080 size and sized it. I didn't actually have to size it. It was already perfectly sized for that. But whatever resolution you're going to use in your video, you want to probably do that. So if you're going to use a different resolution, like a smaller, 1280 by 720 or something like that, you can do that, and it'll save you a little bit of sizing and so forth. But that's how I put these pieces together for this cool little animation for Animation Designer.